Hello everyone, and welcome to my YNR Official 24 channel. Victor Newman raised his hand and slighted Phyllis Summers, a single explosive act that shattered times of uneasy armistices, buried secrets, and precisely constructed falsehoods, before he turned with ice-cold futurity and told Daniel Romalotti the verity about the identity of his natural father, a disclosure so ruinous and transformative that it rewrote particular histories and power dynamics in one breath. Because this wasn't just Victor losing his temper or flexing his fabulous authority. This was a calculated eruption born from times of manipulation, treason, and moral prostration, and as the poke echoed through the room, it represented the end of Victor's tolerance with Phyllis's games, her half-trueness, and her belief that she could ever outthink the man who erected an conglomerate on knowing everyone's secrets before they indeed realized they had them. And in that instant, Phyllis wasn't the untouchable schemer or the woman who always lands on her bases. She was exposed, lowered, and brazened with the inarguable consequence of choices she made decades ago. Choices that had shaped Daniel's entire life without his concurrence, while Daniel himself stood frozen, caught between the man he allowed. He knew as his father and the sonorous verity Victor unleashed with ruthless perfection, revealing that the blood in Daniel's modes tied him not just to the Romalotti name but to a far more dangerous heritage, one that carried the weight of ambition, moral concession, and grim dominance. Because Victor didn't simply state a fact, he delivered a verdict, his voice steady, enduring, as he told Daniel who his real father was and why Phyllis had gone to similar lengths to bury the verity. And the atrocity of the moment wasn't in the words alone but in the timing, because Victor chose a moment when Daniel was formally questioning his place in the world, his failures, his identity, and his relationship with his mama, making the disclosure hit like a cerebral earthquake, shattering his sense of tone while forcing him to rethink every memory, every assignment, every absence he'd ever felt growing up. And Phyllis's response said everything Victor's poke formerly inferred, her defiance collapsing into fear, rage, and shame as she realized she'd lost control of the narrative for the first time, that her topmost secret was no longer hers to weaponize or cover. And the irony was brutal because Phyllis had spent times criminating others of manipulation while justifying her own falsehoods as acts of love, averring she'd defended Daniel from a verity too heavy for him to bear. Yet Victor's intervention exposed the egoism beneath that defense, because love that robs someone of their identity is still theft. And Victor, for all his sins, believed in brutal honesty when it served what he saw as the lesser good, especially when it came to heritage and blood, generalities he deified nearly religiously. So when he told Daniel who his natural father was, he wasn't just blowing up Phyllis's world. He was asserting control over the future, over the coming generation, icing that Daniel understood exactly what kind of lineage he came from and what kind of power, darkness, and responsibility that lineage carried, and the room itself sounded to hold its breath as Daniel reused the disclosure, the shock giving way to wrathfulness, treason, and a deep, paining grief for the life he allowed. He had, because suddenly the pieces fit together in horrifying clarity, the emotional distance he'd occasionally felt, the implied pressures, the way Phyllis always overcompensated with fierce fidelity and suffocating protection, and the way certain important men in Genoa City had taken an unusual interest in his life, his miscalculations, and his implicit. And as Victor stood there unyielding, he came both cutthroat and verity-teller, unapologetic in his belief that falsehoods like Phyllis's spoilage families from the inside out, indeed as his own family history was littered with secrets, backstabbings, and manipulations just as dangerous, making the moment sorrowfully hypocritical yet incontrovertibly compelling, because Victor Newman exposing a taradiddle is no way about moral chastity. It's about dominance, about reminding everyone in the room that no matter how clever they suppose they are, he always sees the full board, and Phyllis, reeling from the poke. And the disclosure, lashed out with words sharper than any physical blow, criminating Victor of atrocity, of using Daniel as contributory damage in one of his endless power plays. And maybe she wasn't entirely wrong, because Victor's decision to reveal the verity in such a public, explosive way assured maximum fallout, maximum influence, and maximum pain, but in classic Young and the Restless fashion. The question wasn't whether Victor was right or wrong, it was who would survive the fate. Because Daniel's world was now irrevocably altered, his relationship with his mama fractured by distrust and resentment, his sense of tone rewritten by a natural connection that came with prospects he no way asked for, and his unborn suddenly entangled with forces far larger and further ruthless than he'd ever imagined, while Phyllis faced the possibility of losing her son not to death or distance, but to verity itself, a discipline far more ruinous for a woman who erected her life on controlling information. And as the news gurgled outward through Genoa City, alliances shifted incontinently, because secrets like this don't live in insulation. They infect every relationship they touch, raising questions about who knew, who suspected, and who might have served from keeping Daniel in the dark, and Victor's own family would soon feel the consequences. Because bringing another natural connection into the Newman route is no way simple, it threatens birthrights, commitment, and precisely balanced battles. And if Daniel truly carried the blood of a man with immense power and a complicated history, also his bare actuality came a strategic factor in ongoing commercial and particular wars, and beneath all the psychodrama, the poke, the shouting, and the shock, the plot tapped into the core themes that have defined the young and the restless for decades, the idea that identity is fragile, that parents frequently fail their children in the name of protection, that power corrupts indeed when applied in the name of verity, and that the once no way stays buried, no matter how numerous falsehoods are piled on top of it, because Victor's poke wasn't just an act of violence, it was a punctuation mark at the end of Phyllis's long deception, and his disclosure to Daniel wasn't just about biology, it was about forcing a reckoning, dragging everyone involved into the harsh light of reality, whether they were ready or not. And as Daniel eventually set up his voice, demanding answers, demanding responsibility, demanding to know why his life had been shaped by choices made without him, the emotional fallout promised to fuel months of drama as Mama and son plotted to rebuild trust, as Victor maneuvered to shape Daniel's future in ways only he could, and as Genoa City braced itself for the ineluctable chain response, because in this city, no verity comes without consequences, and no disclosure stays contained. And in the end, the most nipping part of the entire moment wasn't the poke or the cried concession. It was Victor's calm certainty subsequently, the look in his eyes that said this was only the morning, that once the verity is out, it can be molded, exploited, and weaponized, and that Daniel Romalotti's life, now reframed by the identity of his natural father, would no way again be his alone, making this one of the most jaw-dropping, emotionally charged, and far-reaching twists the young and the restless has delivered in times. Phyllis finally beats Victor at his game. Diane walked around the Abbott mansion. She was still really surprised that Matt Clark was alive. She really wished she had seen Victor's face when he found out that Jack and Kyle were making their move against him. Diane asked if Victor had said he would stop going after Jack and Jabot. Jack told Diane something that surprised her. He said that now Victor was the one being attacked. Diane was trying to understand what was happening because it seemed like Victor was going to accept their deal, the deal that Jack and Kyle had made with Victor. Diane was thinking about Victor and how he must be feeling now that Jack and Kyle had turned the tables on him on Victor. Jack said that Victor stalled. He knew that the mustache was in a tough spot. Jack did not think that Victor was a problem for Jabot after what happened that night. He was not ready to say that the problem was completely gone. Jack felt that Victor was scared. Jack saw fear in Victor's eyes. It really got to him. This was something for Jack. Jack and Diane were really happy with Kyle because he had the Newmans watched, and that is how they caught Matt Clark. Jack thought that Kyle did a job. The mustache. Victor was not as tough as Jack thought. They did not want to celebrate soon, but for now this was the break they needed. Jack was not entirely sure what was wrong with Victor. He had an idea about it. Diane knew why Kane and Phyllis were working together. She could not help but say good things about her enemy for making it happen. For once Phyllis did something that impressed Diane. However, Jack was still being careful because Kane's software could still cause them problems. Jack was worried that he and the others could still be a target of Kane's software. At his apartment, Billy was happy. Raised a glass to Kane and Phyllis for finally beating the great Victor Newman. Billy had obviously had much to drink, and Sally heard the whole thing. This was what Sally was really scared of happening. Sally asked Billy, "Are you drinking again?" Billy told Sally that drinking was not a problem for him. Billy said he just wanted to relax a little. It seemed like Billy was going back to his old ways with the drinking. Billy drinking was a concern for Sally because Billy had been doing so well without the drinking. Sally wanted Billy to stay and talk. She was really proud of Billy for trying hard to make his life better. At the same time, Sally felt like something was bothering Billy again, and that made her feel scared. So Sally asked Billy what was wrong. At first, Billy did not want to tell her what was going on with him. Billy tried to avoid the question. Billy said he saw Kane and Phyllis doing what they planned. That is all Billy knew. Sally wanted to know more about what happened with Kane and Phyllis. Billy asked Sally to forget about it and move on. Billy tried to tell Sally what was going on. The more Billy talked, the more worried Sally became. Billy did not get why Sally was upset. Billy had not told Sally the truth. Sally was very upset when she asked Billy why he lied to her. She felt bad because Billy lied to her face. Sally was emotional when she talked to Billy about his lies. Sally remembered what Adam did to her. He made her think he had feelings for her. Really, he was into Chelsea. It was weird because Billy was doing the thing to her. Sally did not like being compared to Adam. It made Billy really mad. He has always been a little crazy. Sally told Billy that she knew he was happy when Victor had problems. She was upset that he did not tell her how he felt. She knew that Billy wanted to get at Victor. This was a big problem for them. Sally just wished Billy would talk to her about what he was thinking of keeping it inside. Billy said he wished he was a part of it. She thought there was something bigger going on. Sally thought she was the grown-up in the room. She was the one talking about the things that are hard to talk about. Billy told her that was not true. He said she was doing the same thing. For months, Sally has been watching Billy, waiting for something to go wrong. She thinks Billy is going to make a mistake at some point. Billy and Sally have been having problems because Sally does not think Billy can do things right. Sally is waiting for Billy to fail. Sally did not think that Billy had a problem with drinking. She thought Billy had a problem with being obsessed with things. Billy took a moment to say sorry to Sally for making Sally wonder if she could really trust Billy. Billy promised Sally that he was not going back to his habits. It was something that happened for a moment, and Billy did not think there was anything more to it. Back at the Newman Ranch, the whole family was in a lot of trouble because their company was falling apart from the inside. Nikki wanted to know how this happened because Victor had the program the time. She really wanted to know who did it, what they did, when it happened, how it happened, and why it happened to their family company. Nikki talked to Victor. He said it scared him, but he did not think it was someone from the company who did it. Victor said nobody at the company knew he had the software, so it had to be someone from outside the company who did it. Nikki and Victor were talking about the family company. What happened to it? Victor still said it was not a job, it was someone outside the company. The family company was important to Nikki. She wanted to know what happened to it. Nikki thought they should make a list of people who might have done something. He was pretty sure it was someone they knew already. Victor immediately thought of Phyllis as the person who probably did it. He figured that Phyllis might have put something in the software before she gave it to him. Maybe Kane was able to do it all along. Nikki asked a question. If Kane was able to do this, then why did he not do it before? Nikki did not understand why Kane just sat back and watched his company get into trouble. He did nothing to stop it from happening. Victor and Nikki were thinking about Phyllis and Kane, what they might have done. Victor thought that Phyllis was really mad at them, and that is why she did this. He also thought that Phyllis and her people were getting desperate because they were running out of money. Victor said to Nikki that the only way to solve this problem was to talk to Kane and Phyllis. Nikki was worried that Kane and Phyllis would not want to talk to them because they did not like Victor. Victor told Nikki that everyone wants something. That is how they can make a deal with Kane and Phyllis. Nikki felt bad because the family had been through a lot lately. First it was Noah, then Nick. Now the company was in trouble. Victor and Nikki were talking about the company, how to save it from Kane and Phyllis. She really wanted to think that they could get past this problem. Now she was really frightened that her husband would not succeed. Adam and Victoria went back to the living room, told Victor that the computer program was causing a lot of trouble. Nikki and Victoria thought the best thing to do was to shut down their company for a while. Phyllis had a dream that Victor was giving her the key to Newman Enterprises. It was like it was really happening. Victor and Nikki were thinking that Phyllis was the one who could take them down. Then Kane came back into the room, asked Phyllis if she was thinking about what would happen next. He was pretty close to the truth. Phyllis said that she knew things would be different for her if she went to Nice. She did not know that Kane was actually Aristotle Dumas. She still had a feeling that something would change. This was the start of Phyllis showing everyone who did not believe in her that she was wrong. Phyllis was going to prove all of her doubters wrong. Phyllis was excited to see what would happen next with Phyllis taking charge. Phyllis was really going to make it big in Genoa City. She could not wait to go up to Victor. Say I told you so. Phyllis wanted her kids to know what she could do so they would think she is great. Kane wished that Phyllis could have a time with her family, which is something he cannot do with Lily and the kids. This was all about Phyllis. She felt that Victor had tricked her. Now he has to deal with the fact that Phyllis had beaten him. Phyllis had beaten Victor. That is what mattered to her. Phyllis really loved the idea that she would feel amazing when she finally told Victor that she was the one who destroyed his company. Kane made a joke that they should keep Victor's picture as a way to remember the man. Phyllis got a text message from Victor. She thought to herself if he already knew what was going on. When Phyllis did not respond to his text message, he called Kane, and Kane did not answer that call. Kane started talking about Billy. How he thought Billy was very sad because he was not a part of the big plan to take down Victor in 2026. Phyllis and Kane were talking about the Victor situation. How they were able to take down Victor. Phyllis really did not want Kane to get involved in Billy's problem. She told Kane that Billy is not actually his brother. Kane really wanted to help Billy. Phyllis said she will not help Billy with anything. She told Kane that if he helps Billy, he will get hurt by Billy in the end. Kane decided to call Billy and ask him to meet in the morning. Kane wanted to talk to Billy about his problem. He wanted to figure out what was going on with Billy. Kane asked Billy to meet him so they could talk things through about Billy's issue. Victor dropped by the train, ignored Phyllis, and asked Kane, "What will it take to end this madness?" Phyllis eventually beats Victor at his own game. On The Young and the Restless, a seismic shift jewels Genoa City as Phyllis Summers, long undervalued, frequently dismissed as too emotional, too reckless, too transparent, eventually overreaches the great Victor Newman in a way no bone saw coming, delivering a palm so precise, so ruinous, that indeed Victor himself is forced to quietly admit defeat. It begins still, nearly invisibly, with Phyllis playing the part everyone expects, frazzled, reactive, twisting from old grievances and particular losses, while Victor, induced he has formerly won, tightens his grip on Newman Enterprises and extends his shadow over every corner of the megacity, manipulating board members, using secrets, and reminding abettors and adversaries likewise that he always plays 5 moves ahead. But what Victor fails to notice is that Phyllis has learned commodity pivotal over the times. The stylish way to beat Victor Newman isn't to challenge his power head on, but to let him believe he has formally crushed you, while Victor is busy orchestrating a commercial ambush designed to cripple his rivals and expose their vulnerabilities. Phyllis is still erecting alliances that look flimsy on the face, but are ironclad under. Reconnecting with former adversaries, trading precisely chosen trueness rather of falsehoods, and gathering pieces of Victor's conglomerate that indeed he forgot were loose. She studies him, not as a Goliath, but as a man, his habits, his eyeless spots, his absolute belief that fear is the ultimate currency. And she realizes that Victor's topmost weakness is his certainty that no one would dare turn his own styles against him. The trap is elegant in its simplicity. Phyllis feeds Victor just enough information to make him suppose he's uncovered her scheme, allowing him to smugly pivot, counterattack, and overreach, all while she documents every move, every trouble, every illegal initiative he makes in his rush to dominate. And when Victor eventually springs what he believes is the killing blow, forcing a public demotion meant to destroy Phyllis's credibility formerly and for all, she stands there smiling. Because that moment, that single act of arrogance, is exactly what she demanded. In one stunning reveal, Phyllis flips the narrative, exposing Victor's manipulation to the board, the media, and his own family, presenting substantiation so watertight that indeed his most pious abedins see and deny it, and for the first time in times, Victor isn't the one controlling the room, not the one decreeing terms, but the bone. Being watched, judged, and cornered. Nikki sees it, the flicker of concern in Victor's eyes, the subtle shift in his posture, because she knows him better than anyone and understands that this isn't a temporary reversal but a genuine loss.